Hey guys, Jamaican Jazz here with a first impressions video for the recently released BitCraft demo. This is the BitCraft Pre-Early Access public playtest that just got released on the 29th of May. And I just finished playing about 9 hours of the demo, so I'm about to share some of my thoughts about the changes as well as the new content that they added to this playtest. Now keep in mind, this is a limited version of the game, so the level cap is level 10 for all skills, and there's going to be limited content in this playtest, and it's going to run basically from now until a few days before the actual early alpha release date. The first set of things I want to talk about is just the major issues that I've encountered and other people have encountered since booting up the beta. The first being weird audio bugs. A lot of stuttering, a lot of random looping or like stacking of audio, and it causes the game to kind of freeze up a little bit and sometimes crash. I'm not exactly sure what the main cause of this issue is, but it seems to happen more frequently in town when there's a lot of people kind of gathered in one spot. I basically never ran into this issue if I was just out in the wilderness by myself. It just really only happened in towns, so I'm not exactly sure if there's a memory leak issue, because some people have talked about it being memory leak issue. Could be just like a logic error or some sort of sound error that's causing the memory to freak out. And sometimes there's just weird moments where the audio just randomly stops and then the game freezes, or you have this weird like freezing with like a teleport prompt, and then the rest of the game kind of works okay, but then you can't move and it bugs out, and it's really weird. I'm not exactly sure what's causing it, but I'm sure the team is going to be able to find out what it is and just fix it in a few days, because they had similar issues in the past and they got on top of it pretty quickly, so I'm not really too stressed out about that. There's also some server stability issues, so a couple of regions were having some problems on launch, causing a lot of people in that region that spawned into that region to like lag out and kind of rubber band everywhere, but they couldn't really find a solution for it immediately, so they basically just got people to like move from that area to a different area until they've fixed that problem. I don't think it's been fixed yet since I've recorded this video, but hopefully they get on top of that in the next couple of days as well. But as far as major issues is concerned, it's just for me the weird audio bugs and the stuttering and the weird like freezing of the game just randomly, because it can be a little bit annoying. Happens once every 20 to 30 minutes, maybe a little bit, bigger gap in between depending on where you are. But I feel like it does have something to do with all the people in town basically in one location. So hopefully they do find a fix for that soon. So now I'm going to look at the changes that they made to the professions and stuff like that and some of those systems in the game. There seems to be a new food system compared to the previous alpha. I'm not sure if this is intended or if it's a bug, but basically your food or like your stamina will always go down when you're working on like a workstation or doing an action, whereas previously you would drain stamina, but you would also regenerate stamina if you have eaten food, and they would kind of cancel each other out or make it so that you can do an activity for longer before your stamina gets drained. Now it seems that your stamina just drains and it doesn't regenerate until you run out of stamina. The regenerating of the stamina when you're not doing anything is a lot faster than it was before, but I feel like you pretty much can't AFK for a long period of time, or you can't queue up long crafts without having to stop multiple times in between when your stamina runs out. And then you have to kind of just sit there and wait for like 15 to 20 seconds until your stamina bar goes back to full, and then continue crafting your whatever you're crafting. I'm not entirely sure if this is just a bug in the system and it's just something went wrong and it's just not working, or if this is the new system. But I find this kind of annoying when it comes to like doing longer projects, like if I'm crafting like bricks, or if I'm crafting ingots, something that takes a lot more energy. I can't just AFK, and my food kind of feels a little bit useless when I'm doing these long projects. So hopefully they tweak that a little bit so it feels a little bit less wonky, considering the previous alpha I feel like felt a lot better as far as like the stamina system is concerned. I also noticed that like the tailoring XP seems to be ridiculously high. it should have been buffed from the previous alpha, but because the previous alpha tailoring was the least level skill, I think, out of all of them. So I do believe that it did deserve to get buffed, but I just feel like it got a little bit over buffed. I mean, like other skills like leatherworking and smithing feels like they also got a little bit of extra XP because they feel like they're leveling faster, like similar speeds as masonry and stuff like that. But I just feel like for me the outlier was tailoring, and I feel like tailoring was leveling up a little bit too fast. Maybe if the XP for that gets cut down just a little tiny bit, not too much, I feel a little bit better. Some of the other things that kind of threw me off as well is some of the resources on the map and some of the actual materials, like the ore got switched around. So now the tier 1 ore is ferrolith, which used to be the tier 3 ore in the previous alpha, and then pyrolite's tier 2 now, and then so they kind of shifted some stuff around. It can be a little bit confusing if you played the previous alphas. If you haven't played the previous alphas and it's your first time playing, then it's fine, you won't notice anything, but for me, it was a little bit jarring getting used to it because I was so used to the previous systems. The new map, they've improved significantly, way less laggy, and the sections clearly indicated. It looks very clean compared to the previous iteration of the map. And also on top of that, all of the labels and all of the markers and all of the indicators update a lot more smoothly and frequently and accurately. So it's really nice because the map got a little bit hectic in the last alpha after you've explored a decent amount. I haven't explored a ridiculously large amount in this playtest, so you might have similar issues when you explore larger parts of the map. But as far as I can tell, it's running a lot smoother and it's taking less time to load than the previous iteration of the map. So I'm liking that improvement. Cooking's no longer a profession. It's been moved to the skills tab. So you have professions, and now there's 12 of them instead of 13. And then you have a skills tab. So now Heimlich is kind of the cooking NPC now as well, which is kind of weird because he used to be like the upgrade nodes for your character in the previous alpha. I've noticed that the actual spawn rate of the hieroglyphs themselves have been increased by a lot. The little at least the tier 1 hieroglyphs seem to be just everywhere now, all over the floor. It was kind of a chore to get them in the previous alpha, but now you can pretty much just find them wherever you look in the newbie area. They're really easy to come by, which I think is really good, especially for when you're working towards your claim, your codexes for your claim. I like the change, so they've increased that to make it less of a chore training scholar. For hunting, they changed how you deal damage to the creatures that you're hunting. So before you used to do a set amount of damage with each hit. Now there's like a random amount of damage between like a min value and a maximum value, and you can hit between those values. So you could hit on the higher end, hit like 21s with like the base bow, or you could hit on the lower end, hit like 12 or 13. So there's a little bit of RNG involved with hunting animals in BitCraft now. I don't know how I feel about it. It's kind of cool, but it's kind of annoying when you hit the bird, like the saggy birds, and they have like 1 HP left because you low rolled on your hit. But we'll see how much that affects like the gameplay in early access. I also made the saggy birds run slower. You don't have to sprint to catch up to them, so that means they run less distance. So you don't have to like ferry the corpses back and forth for like extended distances. So that makes Hunter a little bit less tedious. It still feels tedious, but it doesn't feel as bad as the previous alpha. The other thing that they did change is the actual range of the transferring your materials to your cart feels like it's been increased. It feels like you can stay from your cart like a further distance away, but still be able to transfer stuff. And on top of that, your cart menu doesn't just disappear when you walk out of the range of the cart. So you can leave it up there, and then the moment the button lights up, you know you're in range, you can transfer your materials over to your cart, which I really like that change. It just makes it easier when you're moving a lot of heavy load like cargo and stuff like that, and just transferring them around. You don't have to keep right clicking your cart to open the inventory, put stuff in, walk off, it closes, and you have to open up again and then repeat. So it removes a little bit of that friction, which I really like that change. They change how the star bulb node is harvested, so that when you harvest it, you get 5 star bulb seeds, which converts into like 1 star bulb in the farming patch. Whereas before you would get like a random amount and you needed 5 to start farming them. I haven't seen any ember grain around, but apparently they seem pretty rare. And I'm assuming that the change for the ember grain is similar to the star bulb, make it easier to just get started farming those 2 plants. For the bushes, they don't seem to drop as many fiber plant seeds. They seem pretty rare compared to previous alphas where you just get like a ridiculous amount of them and you throw them out. And also the seeds from trees, like mature oak trees, you used to get 1 seed every couple of trees in the previous alpha. Now you get like 8 to 10 seeds, maybe even more per tree. So you're going to be drowning in tree seeds. So compared to the previous alpha, the new combat system seems way more responsive. I'm pushing the ability button on my weapons, and I don't have to like tap them 4 or 5 times and then push them, and then it looks like I pushed them and they went on cooldown, but then it rubber bands back and then they're not on cooldown anymore and it drops an input. I pretty much push the button, he does the ability, and then I push another button, does the ability. So the abilities kind of queue up better now as well, so it feels way better, way more responsive. Doesn't feel as laggy. I feel like playing from Australia in the previous alpha, I feel like I was lagging a lot and I was rubber banding a lot and dropping a lot of inputs, but this test, I feel like I might rubber band here or there, but nowhere near as much as the previous alphas. I did try and fight some jackals. They still hit like a truck. I could only barely 1v1 the jackals. If I had to, I have to hop in the water and I have to just swim around, wait for my HP to regen, and then just slowly chip away at their health until they're dead. The other change that they made is, unlike the previous alphas where all the weapons were available for the player to use off the get-go, you now have to purchase the ability to use weapons, and each weapon is locked behind a Slayer level. So you can start off with like a sword after you do the training, and there's a new NPC for combat for Slayer. You have to purchase these blueprints or these training pages, I guess, to unlock the ability to use a weapon. And then you have to make the weapon, of course, as well. And you start off with the spear, the shield and spear, I think. And the shield and spear is really good because it has an ability to boost your armor, as well as doing damage, and it also has a taunt. Now, as you level up by killing jackals or other combat NPCs, you can unlock the training for other weapons like the claymore and the mace. So I've unlocked the claymore. I haven't quite unlocked the mace yet. I'm only level 8 Slayer, I think. But I unlocked the claymore. I made it, equipped it, and the claymore currently, at least in this demo playtest, it does not have any abilities like the spear and shield. Now, I don't know if early access will give abilities to the claymore. I'm not sure if the mace also doesn't have abilities. I'm assuming it doesn't have abilities as well. But if this is a bug and the claymore just doesn't have abilities, then I guess I'll find out. Right now, the shield and spear is very good for fighting jackals 1v1 without taking as much damage. And it's also really good for saving people. So I ran into, I was out gathering sand, saw another player running towards me away from a jackal. So I was able to taunt the jackal away to stop it from attacking him. And then I was able to kill the jackal and save this other player. So I think that's very cool. So for the town, the main town they added last alpha is basically they added these little hub towns with pre-built stations that you basically can go into and just start out to make the new player experience a little bit easier. Because before you had to make your own claim, build all your stations. It was a very complicated and tedious process. Whereas the town kind of streamlined the early game process. So it kind of provides you with all the stations that you need to craft all your basic materials, all your your basic gear and all that before you finally go out and build and expand and grow your claim. Now, the biggest issue that I had in the last alpha was all of the nodes and all of the skilling stations from a distance basically looked the same. It was very confusing. My partner had a very rough time navigating the area because a lot of the area looked very similar, and you got turned around and a lot of people got confused. What they done with this version of the game is they basically used higher tier models of skilling stations so that they're more obvious as to what they do. But on top of that, they've added these banners which displays the actual associated profession on those banners. So it's color coded, it has different logos for each of the skills and each of the professions. So it gives you a clearer idea of what station does what and what they're for, and makes it easier for you to navigate your way around the town. Now, this I think is really good. They added a new market system, which is next to the bank, and they added a lost item recovery. So if you store items in a bank, like at someone's claim, and then the claim gets dismantled or deleted, all the items you had gets put into like a little chest, and you can just like claim it later so you don't lose all your stuff, which I think is really cool. The biggest problem I have with the town at the moment, though, is its layout. The bank is kind of off in its own corner with the market, and then all the traders and the NPCs are kind of just scattered around everywhere, and then all the skilling stations are kind of placed really far apart from each other and in a way that doesn't really make sense, to me at least. So like the lumber station is like on the opposite side of the stone and the mining stations, and it's very difficult because you cut logs and then you need to use the logs as fuel, but then you have to keep going across back and forth, and there's a lot of travel time. And I feel like if the layout of the towns would change a little bit, it would make it a little bit easier to navigate. So I feel like the optimum setup for the towns would actually have the bank in the middle, have the traders around it in like a circle, and then in one corner, the player housing, the marketplace, and the waystone teleports. And then the other sort of 3/4 circle around have the skilling stations in that a little bit closer to the center. So there's a little bit less traveling back and forth that's required. I'm not entirely sure if all the towns' layouts are the same or if each individual town has its own different layout. So that's also a thing I haven't explored yet because I haven't really gone to any other towns apart from the town that I started in. So they might have different layouts in different towns. That would be also kind of cool. So they also improved the chat system. So they added like a whole bunch of filters to the chat. Like you can resize it and stuff like that. It looks a lot cleaner. I like it. The other thing they changed is how the teleportation system worked as far as waystones is concerned. So previously there was just a cooldown with teleport, so you could teleport and then there would be like a 10 or 15 minute cooldown before you could teleport again. And you could pretty much teleport anywhere. And as the claims developed and unlocked their waystones, they built their waystones, and you pretty much ended up just teleporting everywhere instead of just walking. And it kind of took away a little bit of that exploration from the game. Now they've implemented a teleport energy system for waystones. So you have a certain amount of energy that you can use for teleports. This regenerates over time, and when you teleport to a waystone, the actual teleportation energy cost will increase based on like the distance that destination is from you. So the further away it is, the more it will cost as far as energy is concerned, which I think is a really good thing because it makes teleports less OP, but still viable to use. They also added 2 new NPCs into the game. One is a LSC, which is this giant, I'm not sure what kind of animal NPC in a cave. So you have to find a cave outside, like just on the outside of town to be able to talk to them. And they're responsible for all like the taming related stuff from the taming skill. So getting like mounts or getting like pets and stuff like that. When you level your taming skill up, you can purchase pets or you can purchase the ability to ride specific mounts and purchase mounts from them. The other NPC I mentioned earlier is Rampart. He's the Slayer NPC, so He's in charge of like all the weapons related, combat related knowledge that you can buy, and they've also added the tutorials to other NPCs as well. So they added like a couple of tutorials where you go around and meet the different traders and the different NPCs in the actual town, as well as like a cooking tutorial. I think there's like the cart, like constructing your cart tutorial that they had in the last alpha, which I think is really good because your cart is one of your main vehicles that you're going to be using a lot, especially in the early game. On top of the tutorials, though, they've added a task system. So all of the NPC traders in the town, except for the twins for some apparent reason, which I'm not sure if this is intentional or not, have like a task system. So essentially, they have 3 requests for items, and these requests refresh once every 4 or 5 hours. I'm not exactly sure how long. And when you hand in the items that they want, so for example, Bricko wants 10 bricks. If you give him the 10 bricks, he'll give you hex coins in return, and the hex coins vary based on the materials that you actually give to them or the items that they want. And they also give you a certain amount of XP based on their skill. So Bricko will give you construction XP, Heimlich will give you cooking XP, Rumbag will give you merchanting XP, Alessi will give you taming XP, Rampart will give you Slayer XP, and then I can't remember what Svim gives you. I'm sorry, Svim. So yeah, overall, outside of like the weird audio crashes that seem to be happening in the game, I feel like there's been a lot of improvements since the previous alpha, and I'm looking forward to when early access comes. Hopefully, the team gets on top of these weird bugs and stuff like that. They had similar issues with performance in the last alpha in the first few days, but they got on top of that pretty quick. So I'm pretty optimistic that they'll be able to find whatever's causing this relatively quickly and just flush it out. As I started playing, like later on, like hour 7 or 8 in into the demo, I feel like I was having less issues with crashing. So it might just be like a server load or like a too many players concentrated into one area kind of issue that might need optimization. But apart from that, I'm just looking forward to seeing what else they've changed in the higher tiers as far as how resource progression is concerned. So I'm excited to see what that's going to be like in a month from now. But keep an eye out for guys. Keep an eye out for videos. I'm going to be testing some things on the BitCraft demo, and then hopefully I'll see you on the stream when the early access comes out. So if you enjoyed the video, leave it a like, share, comment. Catch you in the next one. Peace.